So I know you have been here, over the last few weeks, just talking about human sexuality and, what is it and what is it not and what's it all mean. And I've been brought here today to basically talk to you about pornography, which is awesome. I started surrounding myself with just Jesus stuff, hoping that through osmosis, I would be set free from my addiction. But unfortunately, the longer I tried to run from it, my struggle just got worse. Pornography took me places that I never thought I would go, and it kept me there longer than I ever intended to stay. The biggest demographic of porn consumers are young Christians. Some begin in high school, trying to learn about how to have sex because the church isn't talking about it, or you find it at college because now you're free to do whatever you want. The thing I've seen about pornography addiction, though, is that it does not discriminate. If there's an internet connection, then there's pornography attached to it. Believe it or not, we are living in a porn culture. A porn culture turns women into sexual objects and men into sexually calloused. And it isn't just through early porn exposure, although the average age a child sees pornography is 8 years old for boys and 11 years old for girls. It actually begins with how advertisers portray women as weak and barely clothed, and versus how they show men as dominating and powerful, rich and strong. And the female models and actresses are getting younger and younger and are wearing less and less.
So most people think of pornography as something that guys are involved in, and most of the stories that we hear about are about men who are struggling with this. How common is it actually amongst women?
That is what we hear most often, is that men are the ones who are visually stimulated, they're the ones looking at porn, but the reality is 17% of women are addicted to pornography, and they look at it and are attracted to it in many of the same ways as men are. I was only 10 years old when I came across a pornographic magazine in my brother's bathroom after school one day. And obviously, at 10 years old, I didn't have a great sense of what sex was or any of that. And so when I found this magazine that was so provocative and showed things that I had never seen before, it obviously caused me some curiosity and intrigue. And so instead of turning away from it in that moment, I decided to look at it.
You know, it seems to me like a key word that I kept reading in your book was accountability. Your book is called Dirty Girls Come Clean. It's about women in pornography. Talk a little bit about what some of the challenges to a woman are going through this.
The challenge, for the most part, is just this overwhelming, debilitating feeling of being alone, not thinking that any other woman in the world struggles the same way that she does. And that's the lies of the enemy, keeping her in that bondage that you are alone, you have nobody you can tell who is not going to judge you. And so while they want to be set free, they don't know who to talk to. They don't know how to come clean with somebody. And they ultimately just keep in their activity because they know no other way out.
You know, one of the ploys of the enemy when it comes to sexual sin is the shame involved in it. What do you say to women who are watching, listening right now, who are maybe struggling with the same things that you were? What do you suggest?
It goes back to me telling her, like looking at you right now in the camera, you are not alone in what you are struggling with. 17% of women struggle in the very same way that you do, and there is help and there is hope through a loving and graceful Jesus Christ and a community of women out there who are willing to talk to you, chat with you, pray with you, who love you, and hopefully you'll be able to find freedom finally from this thing that's keeping you in bondage.
I want to begin this morning by just defining the word identity, like the bare bones, literal dictionary definition of what identity means. And identity is defined as the fact of being who or what a person or thing is. So who or what are we? How do you identify yourself right now? I want you to take just a moment and based on that definition of identity, Write down 2 to 3 words that you would choose to identify yourself by. I'm going to assume that for most of you, you didn't write down positive words. And for a lot of you, it might have been words like dirty, broken, lonely, unlovable. But why is this? Why would we identify ourselves with negative words? Maybe it's because 1 in 6 women have a problem with pornography addiction or sexual addiction. Or maybe it's because 1 in 3 women have been sexually abused. Or 1 in 3 women have had an abortion. Or 65% of divorces are because of infidelity. There are a lot of reasons to see ourselves in a negative light. And if we're being honest, we tend to identify ourselves by one of 3 things: by a behavior, by an insecurity, or by something that's been done to us. I want you to take the words you wrote down on your index card and prayerfully reflect on what it would mean to redefine your identity into who or what Jesus says you are. For 12 years, this woman lived with an affliction that transcended a physical problem. It became an all-encompassing burden that affected every aspect of her life. Since she was ceremoniously unclean, she would not have been allowed in public and would have been treated as an outcast. In fact, she likely stopped leaving her house altogether once she couldn't get healing from a doctor. But on this day that Jesus was there, she didn't allow her affliction to keep her from dropping to her hands and knees to crawl through the crowd, a crowd of people who had likely shunned her. She didn't allow her affliction to keep her from the healing she knew she could receive. And she didn't allow her affliction to keep her from getting to Jesus. And how did Jesus respond to this woman? He doesn't call her unclean. He doesn't call her unwanted. He doesn't call her undesirable. He calls her by one word: his daughter.